Hello YouTube! I thought I'd start off my list of anime discussions today. An anime discussion is exactly what it says on the tin, a discussion about an anime related topic. Today I will cover what is probably one of the biggest causes of contention in the entire anime community, the dreaded dub versus sub debate. To start off, I should say that this title is actually a little bit of a misnomer, a rather poorly named topic, as there can be multiple dubs of any given show, and this can even work backwards with a Japanese dub of an American show. Discord. But because no one ever seems to complain about how bad one of those dubs are, I'll explain it to you like this. The dub versus sub debate is where an anime originally in Japanese with English subtitles is given an English version for the vocals, creating a division in the fan base where both argue one is better for any given reason. This debate can get quite heated, as well as quite personal. Since anime has been given English versions, there have always been hardcore fans for one version or the other, who we shall call Puritans. The definition of a Puritan is a person/fan who favors one version almost to the point of excluding the other, which some do, due to many different reasons, occasionally with no real backup for these opinions. This is why I feel I am able to make this comparison, because despite the potentially unhealthy amount of anime I have practically inhaled over the last 4 years, I am not a Puritan either way, and am therefore in a better position to present an unbiased view of this subject. Most Puritans will not allow you to be a fence-sitter on this topic and will force you to pick one side or the other. I have found that the fans that have been on the anime scene longer generally tend to occupy the sub-Puritan camp. This also comes along with your treatment of being inferior for watching, heaven forbid, liking English dubs. I have experienced this myself, where because you watch dubs, all of a sudden, suddenly whatever opinions you had just aren't given any consideration. I generally watch shows at least twice so I can make a proper comparison between the two. So then, you may be wondering, why does this debate exist? I think the real heart of this debate is a mix between a difference of irreconcilable opinions and a resistance to change. Of all the arguments most often put forward by the sub-Puritans is that the English dub sounds nothing inferior to the original Japanese. I've discovered there are two reasons for this. The first reason is that voice acting is not as big an industry here as it is in the East, nor is it generally considered a good career path. As a result, the pool of voice actors we can use is a drop in the ocean compared to the Japanese. The Japanese not only have a larger pool, but also a wider array of voices. I've heard cases before where the Japanese cast is occasionally filled in by people just taken off the street to give their subs a more rounded audio. The second argument is that the sub is better acted, see, just plain better, than the English dub. Duh! There's a proper explanation for why the original sub may be promoted as better is because cultures, we have different values for our voice acting. Anyone who's ever done media or drama here in the West will notice there is a lot of emphasis placed on how easy and natural the acting is. The Japanese subs tend to be better because they place a lot of emphasis on how well the lines are delivered rather than how natural they sound. To the Japanese, this is exactly what they want, but to Westerners, that acting can come across as forced, pretentious, or so we think of them as being just a tad uptight. Contrast how the West values our natural and smooth voice sounds. Westerners are generally prepared to accept voice acting that sounds more natural at the cost of the level of acting displayed. A good example of this I can think of is High School of the Dead. The sub is better acted, there's no questioning that, and it can be argued as the better of the two, but the actors in the dub sound like they are having more fun with it. I mean, watch.
Springfield M1A1 Supermatch. It's semi-automatic, but M14 series full automatic is nothing but a waste of bullets anyway.
Chill out, dude.
I can put 20 bullets in the magazine. That's illegal in Japan. Illegal?
Hello? Hirano?
Nice SR-25... No, you can't get that in Japan. So they just completely modified an AR-110. That's an ETHA M37 riot shotgun! It's a super sick shotgun made by Americans! Are you nuts? Don't point a thing like that at anyone, even unloaded, but when you do, shoot to kill.
I think now is where I should address the elephant in the room, and that is that some English voice actors just aren't good actors. I won't name any here, but there are some actors on both hemispheres that just aren't good at this job. On the other hand, there are some really good ones, and this is where the debate reaches stupid levels because how good a dub is will always depend on the voice actors. When I look at a new dub, the first thing I do is check to see who the actors are. If the big names are on there, chances are it's going to be above average to excellent. I think the real issue is that sub-Puritans have had time to grow attached to the subs, and given how long it can take for some shows to get a dub, by the time it does roll out, the viewers are so entrenched they can't see anything else other than the sub. A failing I'll admit to having fell into before. And boy, do people get upset when the cast doesn't sound exactly like what they expected or are used to. I think I'll let our Lord and Master explain this better.
I mean, the voice acting is just horrible. It doesn't match up with the animation, it doesn't have the same feeling as the original dialogue, and it just makes the whole cartoon look and sound like crap.
Would you rather read subtitles?
Yes, I would.
Though it can and has worked before to have the characters sound so close to the original you could swear it was just the same actor having learned English and adopted an accent, many other times it's good for the voices to have changed. It's important for viewers to know that the companies employ voice actors, not voice imitators. But that isn't what sub-Puritans want. They don't want voice actors, they want voice sounds exactly like the Japanese. I'm going to use Higurashi as an example here. An example of keeping a voice as close to the original as possible would be for Detective Oishi. Both dub and sub have the same gruff voice you'd expect from someone who is a heavy smoker, although we don't get to see how the same voice would apply to the same perverted situations of later seasons. An example where a change in voice was appropriate, in my opinion, was that of Keiichi, the main character. The dub gives him a lighter, more mischievous and more easily freaked out voice as opposed to the generic cool guy that is his sub counterpart. I said earlier I am not a Puritan for either side, and when I get a show I'll end up watching it twice so I can see how the dub differs from the sub. The results? They're all over the place. One of the things I've noticed even in dub subs I didn't like as much is that there are some scenes better in one version than the other. This will always be, particularly due to the setting, maybe. Watch enough dubbed anime, then watch enough subbed anime, and you will soon realize there are things the Japanese are just better at that most English voice actors just can't match. Example, daily life scenarios and cute sounding characters, especially the cute sounding characters. English, on the other hand, is a good language for action and supernatural settings, and we can also do extremely well when we're being scary, just plain evil, sad, and though I hate admitting it, scared. Listen to Kagome and Rukia for all of a few seconds, and you'll see what I mean.
Look out below! Ah, you're insane!
You're never gonna reach it! You're falling! We're gonna fall! Somebody help!
Will you shut up and stop screaming?
I'll scream if I want to!
We can do screaming and panicky extremely well. One of the arguments I've heard a lot of from sub-Puritans is that the dubs are on the decline and they hate them because they can't stand seeing the same voice actors in everything. Granted, there is some truth to this. Dubbing companies have been on the decline, and as I mentioned earlier, voice acting is not considered a particularly good career choice. Vic once said in an interview that he was glad he got into voice acting when he did, back when it was more prolific, when everything had to have a dub. As more dubbing companies close, it gets harder for the voice actors to make their break onto the scene, and new talents are not generally given important roles. A company will seek to retain the customers it has, rather than gamble on a new voice, hence why only the big names only ever seem to be major characters. On the flip side, as the pool of actors has been emptied, the quality of those that remain have generally, and I stress generally, increase. This increase in quality, however, has come at the cost of the variety that dubbing once had. In order to combat this issue, it's important to get dubbing in general into a more positive light. One way to do this would be to get another company, not a normal dubbing company, to do the dubbing for us. Maybe Disney? If someone from any other company asks you to do voice acting, you may be a bit skeptical. If Disney did it, there are many cases of where getting famous actors to do different characters has been a good decision. However, this is not always the best decision. Just because they're a big hit on the silver screen doesn't mean they will be any good at voice acting. Hugh Jackman did the main character from Flushed Away and did it well, but just because he can do both doesn't mean all actors can. The most quoted example in the anime community of getting a big name for a character that wasn't the best in their opinion is Calcifer from Howl's Moving Castle. Even most sub-Puritans I've talked to will admit that there probably wasn't anyone else who could have done the role as well as Billy Crystal. But given the nature of Calcifer in a Japanese mythos kind of way, he just can't match up to the Japanese voice. So then you may wonder, are there any series at all that are considered to have better dubs than the original sub? There are a few, not that many, but there are. I found the cases where the dub was equal to or even superior to the original Japanese tend to be older series like Ranma 1/2. This is because those shows came out back when both East and West were equally crap at what they were doing. They were both new to this thing called anime and so had an even chance at it, but now the Japanese are considered better at it than we are, and that is because we haven't put anywhere near the same amount of effort and time into perfecting it. More still, we are no longer in the age where every show had to have a dub, so it would be obvious that the Japanese is better most of the time. Lastly, I'll touch on translation. There are times when some scenes just do not translate. Sometimes it's because of cultural reasons, others, well, let me just show you. At the second episode of The Melancholy of Haruhi-chan, there is a scene where as Asakura is disappearing, she is revealing a setup labeled by the characters as cheesy and generic. Kyone's final line in the sub is, to my knowledge, actually a reference to a controversial ending of a game that had come out recently, with a twist that was unexpected. An English viewer would not get the reference, so in the dub it was changed to a trope we are more familiar with.
The butler did it.
But this is only one example of translation. Translation done right. It corrected any misunderstandings we as English viewers would have had. However, there is a translation problem that will always bug me regardless of how good a dub is. This is where in the sub a Japanese character, for whatever reason, speaks in English. Labeled English, a pun on how the Japanese pronounce the letter L, but that isn't the largest problem. The real problem is when we dub this. The worst offender I can think of is Genshiken. The 10th episode of the second season, Ono's friends from America come to visit. In the sub, Ono interchanges between Japanese and English as a spoken language, while the other Genshiken members stay in Japanese, not understanding English well. In the dub, however, we see all parties speaking English, and it gets a little weird when every character on screen, bar one, is speaking the same language, but can't seem to understand what each other is saying.
Hey! Kaneko is coming soon!
Ono's coming soon. That's great. Good to know. I think I... wait. I think that means I'll be alone with her.
Do you have last month's issue? Can I borrow the August issue?
What's that? That's Reyes Mood.
August.
So you mean the August issue. So she wants to read the August issue.
She just said that! There are some pro-dub arguments as well. Newcomers to anime are more likely to start off with dubs than they are Japanese subbed. These newer viewers start with what is most familiar to them, English vocals, and gradually move on to the larger pool of subtitled anime. Dubbed anime are also good to show to small crowds, classrooms and gatherings of friends for example. A dub helps them follow the story easier and may even convince them to start seeking anime for themselves. On the other hand, subs are good for even larger crowds where you can still read the subtitles even when everyone is talking or otherwise making a lot of noise. It can be argued that dubs are partly responsible for the popularity of a number of shows by expanding that fan base out of Japan. Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon, One Piece, for example, are going to be my examples here. The dub for Dragon Ball Z was immensely popular when I was younger, and I knew a lot of people who watched it. The dubs most likely to create these kind of fan reactions and get an English dub are typically the ones easily tailored to young children and for teenagers, which can be shown as morning/afternoon cartoons. A few examples of these anime from my childhood, before I even recognized them as anime, well, I'll just give you a short list. Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Beyblade, Zoids, Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Hamtaro, Card Captors... well, you get the drift. Something that sub-Puritans like to overlook is a dub's ability to value add. It should be obvious that a dub comes out in retrospect of the sub. This gives the directors of the dub a chance to improve upon the original material. Not all do. Most dubs are not done without consulting either the original creator or the director of the sub. In fact, there's a chance if they didn't, the dub would just suck. This collusion allows the two groups to make changes here and there to add to a show, and most of the time they do this well. A dub can add new sound effects, new music tracks, occasionally alter the dialogue for more profound or concise delivery of lines, or they can use the cast differently to enhance an element of the show. The example I'm using here is Baccano, widely considered one of the best dubs to have ever been made. The dub includes the addition of accents appropriate to each character, which the Japanese did not have. Even for people who like dubs, like myself, there are some times where it's funny to use a really bad dub as a bit of a joke, or to offset anything else that comes along. A few years ago, I was talking with a few friends and we were mentioning a trip we had made down to Supernova, an anime convention here. And there was a running joke going throughout the entire convention for all 3 days that whenever someone was talking with each other about dubs, particularly dubs, and how bad they were, this response was to say, "At least it isn't Love Hina." Because that dub... that dub. In the end, the conclusion I have reached is exactly the same as everyone else's, and that is, it boils down to different tastes. I've talked about the ups and downs for both sides, but in the end, even if all that evidence was stacked in favor of one, there will always be some people who disagree. Some people prefer dubs, others prefer subs. I think we can all agree on that. For the most part, I like encouraging and participating in these debates for the same reason we were given them in school. A topic like this is perfect for getting one's opinion heard. It encourages discussion, the formulation of an argument, and it also provides new arrivals to the anime community a chance to participate rather than just stand outside of the pre-formed circles. However, I firmly believe that most people get far too heated over this debate, and it can be far more personal than it probably should. What starts off as a friendly trade of opinions quickly devolves into a senseless feud with insults like dub-tards slung around so freely they've probably lost all real impact by now. So that's it then. Agree to disagree. Go forth, watch the anime, and please do not take a simple exchange of viewpoints to be the same as a cockfight. I am Archon Valor, the Jack of Blades, and I'll see you in my next video.